Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Brian Deutsche of XV Capital Group. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Paul, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So what was your background before investing in early stage companies?
Prior to my investing career, I'm a CPA by trade. I focused on the world of chemical manufacturing, went on to grad school to get an MBA, to transition into the world of investment banking, where I was a M&A advisor in the world of consumer and retail, focused on food, beverage, multi-site retail, and direct-to-consumer. While there, spent a little bit of time helping earlier stage businesses with their positioning and preparing for their fundraising. And that's really what lit the fire for my passion to be more deeply involved in the world of early stage companies and now investing in them.
That's great. So what excites you right now?
I think what's exciting right now is just the optionality that's out there. It's become so much less expensive and the barriers are so much lower for individuals to follow their passions, to go out and solve a problem and to build a company. And as an early stage investor, I think what's amazing is how much farther along businesses and entrepreneurs can get before they're out there looking for that first institutional round of capital. And that candidly makes my job both easier because there's more options, more difficult because there's more things to choose from with real traction. That's really what excites me. And as the world continues to progress from a technological perspective, I think that will only continue, where people can get further and further along before bringing on additional dollars. And that's an exciting thing.
Well, for those investors out there listening, what's your advice for those first timers who are just now starting to invest in startups? What would you advise them to do before they write that first check?
I would advise them to spend as much time as possible surrounded by early stage businesses and others who are investing in them. I think the biggest mistake that I see for angels or individuals looking to write their first early stage checks is that they're writing checks into too high of a percentage of what they're seeing. A lot of times that can even be everything that they see because they don't see enough. And when you have an entrepreneur who's passionate about what they're doing, generally speaking, I think that they're going to be able to paint a really pretty picture of the business that they're building and the market that they're operating in. They'll be able to sell you on why you should invest. And the only way to really be able to effectively decide and choose which companies and founders are worthy of your hard-earned capital is to see hundreds, if not thousands of them. And then what it gives you the ability to do is you've now gained perspective on what you like, what you've seen that works, and you can start to pin companies and entrepreneurs against each other internally as you're making decisions. And so I think that you have to become adept at that before you can start writing checks in earnest. I think an effective strategy to that, though, is perhaps you start writing really small checks as in a relative way compared to where you hope to end up. So maybe you get a deeper feel for how these companies are when they're raising money while putting money to work, but it's almost like trial money, play money to get going. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen that I would like for folks to correct.
And so on the other side of the table for startups, what are your advice for people that are just now starting their new venture?
Yeah, I think just like how I mentioned at the onset that there's so many more options for investors as far as seeing different types of entrepreneurs and companies that are coming up. The same is true of entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of variety in investor out there. I think that as the world in this country particularly have become more and more comfortable with the concept of the startup and investing in the startup and having that be an allocation of an individual's investment portfolio, a lot of different strategies have emerged. And so I think what's really important for entrepreneurs and early stage founders is to think about what makes most sense for you as an individual, as well as your business from an investment perspective. Don't just say, okay, I have an early stage company. Now I need to go call on the 500 most prominent venture capital funds who I read about on TechCrunch every day. if that's not necessarily the right path for the business. And so I think that founders need to spend time thinking about what it is that they want personally for themselves and for their companies, and then do the work that's necessary to find investors who fit with that. Because I think one of the biggest contributors to failed entrepreneurial journeys is a disconnect between the investor and the founder, where the founder wants one thing and then the investor wants another, and it doesn't come out until too late and the money's already been put in. So that's something that I think would be beneficial to the vast majority of founders.
Very good. So let's talk about the state of startup investing. How is the industry evolving? What changes do you see out there, and what's coming up?
I think the industry is evolving in the sense there's more and more folks, again, who are comfortable with it, who want to be involved with it. You have the incubators and accelerators that are proliferating, the major startup hubs. And with that, there's just more and more and more money coming in. But I also think that what you're starting to see is, in a large way, some negative press around the historical venture model of continue to fund these businesses irrespective of losses because there's so much dry powder out there. And so what I anticipate we'll see is a class of investor who becomes more focused on cash flow profile and minimizing subsequent rounds as sort of a core thesis for them. It's something that we do, which is great because, again, this is just another option for founders who perhaps want to say, look, I don't want to be on my C, D, E, F, G round. I think we can build something with equity through 2 rounds and then fund it ourselves. And now it's go out and find that investor. And so, again, I just think that as the market matures, which it is, you have more and more money filling different vacancies in the space. And that just means that there's more optionality for everybody.
So what is your investment thesis? What are you looking for in a startup to invest in?
So we look for businesses that have yet to raise any institutional capital. I call anything that's a pre-A round, who has a product or service that is in market in some way, shape, or form, either generating revenue with beta users, with real users, even if free. So anything post MVP, essentially. And where we specialize is in finding companies that can take our capital anywhere from, I'd say, $500,000 to $3.5 million, and raise maybe one more round subsequent to that before getting to a company that's acquirable. And so our target hold generally is in that 3 to 7 year period, whereas I'd say a traditional venture fund more in that 10 to 14 year. And with that, we invest in businesses that we can be uniquely capitally efficient in their given industries. That tends to preclude things like biotech or pharma or aerospace, or things that are really heavy in hardware and need to inventory a significant amount of goods. But that's where our focus is. And we look for, generally, again, these are first, second time founders yet to have that really large success. The age can run the gamut. And it's people who want to be better by virtue of having a larger group. So my team and our LPs that we bring in, we like to find opportunities where we can be true value add, which is why we only do 2 deals a year. We get our hands dirty and we help fill the gaps that entrepreneurs by definition are going to have before they could build out that full.
Are there 1 or 2 portfolios you can call out as an example?
So our newest deal is in a company called American Paper Bag. It is a converter of paper bags focused on e-commerce, food service, and traditional retail. It's a tremendously talented founder team who were looking for capital to expand on their capacity. And what's really cool about this, in our opinion, is and it illustrates how we're different, is it's almost like it's a venture staged investment, but it's almost behaving more like private equity. And this, to bring a lot of what I've said somewhat full circle, that's why it's important to find the right investor for what you're looking to do. And so this company, in our estimation, should never have to raise equity again, can start to utilize debt as it scales, and eventually should be sufficiently cash flowing to support itself. And it's capitalizing on trends in the world of eco-friendly demand, domestic supply chain and domestic capacity, and that the pride of American manufacturing and bringing a lot of that back home, as well as the shift away from plastics into paper. And so it's an exciting thing for us. We've actually just closed on that earlier this week. And so we're thrilled to be moving forward with that.
Well, that's great to hear. So you see a lot of startups out there and starting their journey. What are the challenges that startups face today with regards to regulatory or market issues or technical issues? Where do you see the biggest challenge coming this point?
I think that just by virtue of being a nascent business with founders who, generally speaking, have not been through it before, the risk just lies in the unknown. And from a regulatory perspective, that could be something that gets written into legislation that was not preconceived. You see a lot of that in the world of cannabis where we've had investments before. But I think that what it all points to is the necessity for founders to remain as nimble as possible in the face of this uncertainty. And from an investment standpoint and how much to take and from who to take it, I think what's critical is for founders and entrepreneurs to understand, and investors to understand as well, that the more money you bring on, I actually would argue the less flexibility you have in what you can do with your business. And so until you have a really good handle and hold on your environment and the known risks, at least, I think that it's prudent to be extremely conscious with how much money you're raising. Because again, as soon as you go out and raise that 8-figure check at a 9-figure valuation, you're sort of being forced to put the pedal to the metal from then forth, even if the timing changes and the winds change and maybe there's a different path that would have been a better one for your business, you almost lose some of that optionality. And so I think that that's critical to keep in mind.
So what are some sectors and applications out there today that you think are good immediate opportunities for investors to pursue at this time?
I think there's a world of them. I think that from an investment perspective, it's always best to find areas where you can be helpful. And that doesn't always mean from an industry perspective, but find what talents you have and find entrepreneurs and founders, I think, who maybe have gaps there, and you can fill them. And that can help avoid the concentration risk where the doctor only invests in medical, or the lawyer only invests in legal tech, or the real estate professional only in real estate technology. But think about your personal skill set. And I think that that's really where the focus is versus the industry. There's always going to be people out there that know the industry better than me, better than you, better than the founder, until they really build something to scale. And so we tend to focus on skill set more than industry, more than sector. It's why we're agnostic to industry and sector when we do our investing. I think that money can be made in any world. As long as you are the best or one of the best in whatever it is that you're pursuing, I think that a market is big enough, assuming that you don't raise yourself out of being acquirable.
Well, that's great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I think just to reiterate, be prudent about who you're choosing as your partner in this journey. Having a startup is like having another child or your first child. And you want people as aligned with you as possible while still giving you different frameworks to think through and to challenge you. But what's not good is having an investor who wants you to be a $500 million business and you think what's actually realistic and fits with your team is a $50 million outcome. Those things need to be hashed out up front. Transparency is the best policy when you're finding that partner, and do your best to shop around for the right type of investor. Don't just take the first money that comes your way.
Well, that's good advice. Well, how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Anybody can reach out to me at brian@xvcapitalgroup.com or via my LinkedIn, which I think will be included here with the interview.
That's great. We'll put those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
I appreciate your time, Hall. Thank you.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.